The first thing dealers need to do is just start reviewing their compliance systems, their record keeping. A portion of this is going to be archiving all of your advertising for 2 years and being able to submit that to the FTC if requested, which, we have some clients that we've had for over 10 years at Stream that I've worked with that are already doing that. We've done that for years. So obviously, we have that experience. We can help with that. But just really, like Joe said, just start being proactive. Like, embrace this as a good thing. We want to be more transparent. So really start focusing on your brand messaging. What sets your dealership apart? What makes you better than your competitors? What message do you want out in the environment? And then we can start pushing that early and adopt it early. And then you can turn that into part of your unique selling proposition in your brand, that you are very transparent and, a good person to do business with.
Yeah.
And also leaning into like getting your staff trained on some of the kind of in-store requirements that are going to be coming up, not just the record keeping, but being able to disclose the price in those initial conversations when somebody starts asking about a specific vehicle, and just the additional updates to documents and things like that, because those are going to be the easiest things for a dealer to directly influence, whereas the creative stuff is going to be a little longer because you're going to have to talk with your agency, with your creative team, just to kind of figure out the direction you want to go. But start with the small steps even, because you can start doing that today.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, if a customer comes to a showroom and there is any sort of like obfuscation or not discussing price up front, conceptually that could violate this rule. Am I misunderstanding it?
Correct. So, and I know that this is part of where a lot of people who have looked through the rule or discuss it kind of say, like, this is a difficult requirement for people to meet, because in any initial communication about a vehicle, which it's very vague terminology, you need to disclose the offering price. And the offering price is going to be different from the MSRP because it's the final amount that has to be paid, or the actual value of the lease that you're putting in, etc. And that just needs to be disclosed, obviously in a natural way. You don't want to just have somebody call you, ask about a specific Tahoe, and then you say price, and then go on and talk about all the other features. It just, in that first conversation, it needs to be brought up so that way they know what the price is. And it's really not that hard of a ask when, you just need to mention it so that way they know what, the sticker price is going to be, as opposed to what might be listed on the website, or, again, with whatever markups, etc. You just want to have that transparency, which is going to be the common word we use.
Right.
I
I
should
think
have
that's a good
tally.
point, Zach. Sorry.
No,
A lot of the OEM requirements and shifts in their rules and their map pricing and all of that, I think it's a big shift away from that, only because in those instances, I think it was you had more freedom with the one-to-one communication, where here you do not. Like, even the one-to-one communication needs to be very transparent.
Right.
And to add to that, to be very cautious about, as you're talking to customers before they come into the showroom and as they come into the showroom, a lot of conversations happen on the phone. So you got your internet sales team that are on the phone with the customers, and they're going off the prices that are on the website. Are those the same prices you have on the lot? A lot of times the internet price could be lower than what's actually on the vehicle on the lot. That's something you need to look closely at and make sure that you are consistent across the board, because that could potentially get you in trouble if someone notices that and calls it out. Again, all of this is going to be good for the consumer and the relationship of the relationship of the dealership, because again, it's going to be building trust. They're going to know that what they're talking about online or on the phone is going to be the same price that they see when they get their hands on the vehicle themselves. I worked on the sales floor for a little while, and I saw that happen time and time again, where they were told one price, and then when they get their hands on the vehicle, they see it's marked higher. We were able to honor the price on the sale on the internet call, but again, that makes the customer question the integrity of the dealer.
Yeah, fantastic point. We do have a question in the chat that I want to make sure we get to, from Giovanni. How does this affect negotiations and competitive pricing?
So for competitive pricing, it's going to kind of Denise's point, push a lot of the messaging from how can we have a better positioned price to how are we better positioning our brand, our entire store, and making that process something where people want to come to us. So it is going to put people on a more level playing field. Obviously, from all of the individual OEMs, the incentives that they put out are able to be advertised. It's not like that's going away. And depending on if there's any sort of regional incentives, you will be able to use those to kind of get a leg up here and there. But for negotiations, you can negotiate the price however you want. You know, it's just in those initial communications of this is what that price is, you have to disclose that. You can, once you have a customer sitting down and you're talking through and looking at what incentives they might be available for, or what sort of dealer discounts you might be able to put up front, you know, that becomes a different conversation and doesn't get controlled, you know, from what I've read, by the current iteration of the CARS rule.
Joe, Denise, do you guys have any perspective on the question?
So I would agree with Zach. I would say, you know, also just adding in, like he started to allude to, you can negotiate the price, but then also reiterate, you know, we also have a 3-day guarantee or exchange guarantee. We also have our whatever program, anything that you do at your dealership that, you know, makes you different. Make sure that you're speaking about those things and your reasons to buy, your reasons to come to you. You could still be competitive. It's just, again, using the word transparent, it's just being transparent while you're being competitive. We're not saying that you can't be competitive. You just need to be very clear.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I feel a lot of strategies may kind of maintain themselves. We'll take a look at, markets that are very saturated with a lot of dealers. And, a lot of times in those markets, the dealers want to be very competitive in pricing. This isn't really saying anything against, negotiating for a lower price. They're really going after the ones who are hiking up prices. So in areas where there's a lot of dealer competition, everybody's going for the lowest price. I don't think it's going to affect that as much, because you're going to see the price of the vehicle, the MSRP, and everything else about it. But when you're getting to the actual negotiation side of things, that's where you'll still be able to be competitive with other dealers in your area if you're in a concentrated market. On the other end, when you're working with an area where there's less competition, where there's only a handful of dealers in the area to choose from, that's real value comes to play. You're not really you're not selling as many vehicles, so you're not really going after the market in a quantity standpoint. So this really allows you to kind of focus more on the value that your dealership brings to the customer. And I think that really transcends a little bit more deeper with certain groups.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction. Should have gotten everybody a bottle of whiskey or a favorite liquor to take shots whenever transparency is mentioned, because I'm realizing that's going to be it's going to be the word of the webinar. But it's an important piece. I think that is, if you had to summarize kind of what this entire conversation comes down to, is being transparent and kind of showcasing, bringing value to customers in a different way. That's not necessarily from an incentive-based offers. And I think, somebody said bait and switch earlier, and that's like a big word or correlation with the industry. And I think that's really kind of the essence of this law, is to really kind of flip that on its head and showcase the dealers who are being transparent and bringing so much value to their customers.